Um, base. If one buries loaf in the ground in the seventh year, Rameya says it may not be less than 2 saws, 3 handbreadths in height, and 1 handbreadth of earth over it. But the comments say it may not be less than 4 calves, 1 handbreadth in height, 1 handbreadth of earth over it, and he must bury it in the ground trodden where people walk. If loaf remains during the seventh year, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda say, if the poor gathered its leaves, they have gathered. But if not, they must make accounts with the poor. Rabbi Shua and Rabbi Yossi say, if the poor gathered its leaves, they have gathered. But if not, the poor have no claim on them. And loaf of the sixth year, which remained until the seventh year, as also summer onions and dyer's matter from choice soil, Beis Shammai says they may be uprooted with wooden rakes, but Beis Hillel says with metal spades. But they agree that the dyer's matter of the sides may be uprooted with metal spades. Okay.
Okay. mutar adam likach luf b'motzei Shevi'is. Okay, so now the question is, since we've just been talking about luf, and luf is a multi-year, uh, uh, what's it, crop, multi-year crop. So you can plant luf in the sixth year, or you can bury luf in the sixth year. It grew in the sixth year, and you left it underground for the whole Shemitah. And now comes the eighth year, and there's luf on the market. Tom Gedalia, you're already out there in the marketplace, and there's some luf in the marketplace. And now, the guy that you want to buy from is a little sus, and you're not sure that this guy was if he was keeping Shemitah or not. So you want to know, like, ask a shaila, am I allowed to buy this luf from him? Says Rabbi Yehuda, miyad, no problem. We can assume that this loaf over here is 60th loaf, and you don't have to worry that it was seventh year, and he's been harvesting seventh year things. No, sorry, we don't trust him.
Mhm.
And we suspect that this might be Shemitah produce, and you can only start buying from people who are suspicious or not well known once the eighth year produce starts hitting the market.
Right. They call that in the kind of territory. So it's when Pesach comes.
Right. So that's right.
Right.
When that basically comes out to Pesach time, correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
Mishnah Vav. Elu kalim she'ein ha'uman rashai lemochram b'shvius. Okay, so now here's another little restriction that you've got during Shemitah. You don't, not just about the produce themselves, but you cannot be misayeya l'dvar avera. You cannot help somebody else to commit an avera. Okay, so now a customer comes into the hardware store during the Shemitah year and asks for a plow. You say to him, like, what the heck do you want to plow for? It's Shemitah. Okay, so that's what the Mishnah is telling us over here is that you're not allowed to sell these things at all during Shemitah. Okay, so what are the things that you cannot sell? Any a plow and any of the attachments of the plow.
Mhm.
All the yoke, the mizre, is a what's it? It's a winnower.
Winnower.
Yeah.
Winnower.
Decker is the
It's called
deck.
a matak. The matak for
Oh,
weeding.
thank you. Right. So these are all kalim that are used exclusively for agricultural purposes, and therefore anyone who wants to use them is for sure violating Shemitah. Aval, mocher hu magal yad. He is, however, allowed to sell a hand sickle, umagal katsir, or a scythe, v'agala shel v'chol kelea, and a cart, and all of the kalim that you have in a cart, because these are dual use items. Okay. Once you have a dual use item, you don't have to suspect that the guy who's buying it wants to use it for illicit purposes. He could be buying it. A magalyad, for example, a sickle is something that you're allowed to go out and cut hefka produce with.
Right. And
Why not? You're allowed to go and take hefka produce, so let him go and take hefka produce with the hand sickle.
a scythe is used for harvesting cereals. Some
Yes.
grain.
Yeah.
Grain.
Yes. Correct. Grains. Um, Zaklal, here's your general use. Kol shemelachto miyuchedes la'avera. If the kli is only used for something that would be an avera, asur, you're not allowed to sell it. Le'isur ula heter mutar. If it's dual use, then you are allowed to sell it. Hey, Mishnah Zion. היוצר מוכר חמש כדי שמן וחמש עשרה כדי יין. שכן דרכו להביא מן ההפקר. Okay, so there also limits on the amount that you're allowed to harvest from hefker, right? So when you go out and take stuff from hefker, you can't just take the entire field. You can only take the needs of your household for the day. Okay, so you got to leave for other people. So only for that, when you go out into the field, you think, okay, what's my household going to consume in this day? That's how much you're allowed to take.
Seems
And, and
15 wine jars seems like a lot for the day.
well, if you've got a big family,
I
um, but I'm not sure, like, what size of wine jar are you
know.
talking about? They might, and actually it's interesting for needs for the day because that really doesn't work with grapes because grapes you don't eat on the day. You've got to put them into the vat and let them ferment and
Yeah.
whatever. So there's still I guess a restriction on how much you're allowed to take from the vineyard. But it's not based on how many grapes you can eat for the day. It's going to be based, and the same is going to go for olives
Right,
because
right.
the olives you've got a certain amount of oil that's going to get pressed. So actually, I'm not sure what the halacha is with that. Like, how much are you allowed to take? Um, let's see. Sheken darko lavim min hafkar. Um, what's what he told me him b'shvius b'shir kazeh she'ul tzorich ma'achal beis. All right. So I mean, Kati just says that it's for the needs of his household to eat.
Yeah.
Um, Um, so apparently this is the shear that they prescribed for taking grapes and olives. Um, excuse me.
Beirut. Beirut.
Um, yeah. Okay. So it's five jugs for oil and 15 jugs for wine. And we're also not worried about in saying, okay, well, he's taken 15 jugs for wine. Are you concerned that we're going to use these 15 jugs to put oil into? And so
Right.
apparently the manufacturer is different. And it's just not done to put oil into wine jugs. I'm not sure why the difference is, but that's a question that the Yerushalmi deals with, and we say no, we're not worried about that. And im hevi yoser mikan mutar. However, if a person actually took more jugs and now we see that he's filled them up, we're not going to penalize him because we assume that it still came from Hefker. Mocher legoy ba'aretz. Now, what happens if the guy who's coming into your store is a non-Jew and he says, "Could I have a plow, please?" No problem. You can sell him the plow because a non-Jew is not bound by the halachas of Shemitah. We don't have to make sure that the land it's not a thing on the Hefza. It's on the Gavra. The person is the one who's not allowed to plow. We don't have any mitzvah to ensure that Eretz Yisrael is not plowed during Shemitah. It's okay, it's on the person. Uli Yisrael b'chutz la'aretz, and furthermore, if there's a Jew who's living in chutz la'aretz and he wants to buy these implements, we don't have a problem with that. We're not worried that he's going to import these things into Eretz
Right.
Yisrael and do areas with it there. That falls, I think, under the scope of dual use. He could be using it in chutz la'aretz, he could be using it in Eretz Yisrael. And why are we going to concern ourselves with what his actual usage is going to be?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good. Um,
Aleph.
Gimel Aleph. From when on may manure be taken out of the dung heaps? When those who work have ceased to work. So says Rav Meir. Rav Yehuda says when the sweetening has dried up. Rav Yossi says when it forms knots. How much manure may be deposited? Up to 3 dung heaps in a Beit Sah, each containing 10 basket loads of 1 leket each. And one may increase the number of baskets, but not the number of dung heaps. And Reb Shimon says also the number of dung heaps. A man may set up in his field 3 dung heaps per 1 saw. If more, he must set them out in a triangle. So says Reb Shimon, but the sages forbid unless he lowers 3 and raises 3. A man may pile his manure into one large heap. Reb Meir forbids unless he lowers it 3 and raises 3. But if he has little, he may go on adding to it. And Reb Elazar ben Azariah forbids unless he lowers 3 or raises 3 or places it on a rock. Okay.
Okay. Kilayim.
Okay, fine. Here we go. Aleph Hey, no, above.
But
The wolf and the dog, the wild dog and the fox, goats and deers, mountain goats and ewes, the horse and the mule and the donkey, the ass and the wild donkey, though they resemble one another, are kalayim with each other. One may not bring a tree onto a tree, vegetable onto a vegetable, nor a tree onto a vegetable, or a vegetable onto a tree, but Rebbe Yehuda permits vegetables onto a tree. One may not plant vegetables in the stump of a sycamore tree. One may not graft rue onto white cassia because it is a vegetable onto a tree. One may not plant a fig tree shoot into a cistus in order to cool it. Excuse me. One may not insert a vine shoot into a melon in order to water it because it is a tree into a vegetable. One may not put gourd seed into a mallow in order to preserve it because it is a vegetable into a vegetable. Okay.
okay,
And there's Zavim. Okay. Hey Gimel. Because they said anything that carries or is carried upon a contaminated couch is tahor except for a person. If a person, one thing. Anyone who carries or is carried upon an animal carcass is tahor except for one who moves it. And Eliezer says, providing that he carries it, and anything that carries or is carried upon a human corpse is tahor except if it forms a roof over the corpse, and except for a person who moves his corpse. The part of the tame is the part of the zav person was resting on the tahor person, or if part of the tahor person was resting on the zav person, or if the connected outgrowths of the tame person were resting on the tahor person, or if that connected outgrowth of the tahor person were resting on the tame person. All of these cases, the tahor person is rendered tame. Reb Shimon says if part of the Tamei person were on the Taha person becomes Tamei. But if part of the Taha person was on the Tamei person, he remains Taha. Hey, if a Tamei person was resting on part of a Taha couch, or if a Taha person was resting on part of a contaminated couch, this Taha couch or person is rendered Tamei. However, if only part of a Tamei person is resting on a Taha couch, or if part of a Taha person is resting on a contaminated couch, the Taha couch or person remains Tahor. Thus, we find that Tuma enters a couch and excused from it through the small part of it. Furthermore, a loaf of Truma bread that is placed on a contaminated couch with a piece of paper between the loaf and the couch, whether it is resting on top of the couch, is situated underneath the couch, remains tahor. Similarly, in a situation involving a subflicted stone, the loaf would remain tahor, but the Reb Shimon moves the loaf tame in that case.
okay.
Yeah.
Next, Kalem.
Okay. We have kape hey. If the rover becomes tame, the rover and the interior are tame. But if half the rover is exterior are tahor, half the rover becomes tame. The half rover and the exterior are tame. But the rover and its exterior are tahor. If the exterior of the rover becomes tame, the interior of the half rover is tahor. These are the words of Rav Meir. And the comments say we do not divide exteriors. When one immerses this utensil, he must immerse it in its entirety. Regarding the bases of utensils and their rims and their ears and the handles of utensils that can receive upon which liquids fell, one dries them and they are tahor. But regarding all other utensils that cannot hold pomegranates, which do not have an exterior and an interior, upon a part of which liquids fell, all of it is tamei. Regarding a utensil whose exterior was rendered tamei by liquids, its exterior is tamei, but its interior, its rim, its ears, and its handles are tahor, and if its interior becomes tamei, all of it is tamei. All utensils have an exterior and an interior, and they have a tzavava place. Reb Tarpon says it was with regard to a large wooden trough. Reb Akiva says it was with regard to cups. Reb Meir says it was with regard to tamei hands and tahor hands. Reb Rossi says the sages stated this ruling only in regard to tahor hands. Okay. All right. We move on to Shevi'is. Okay. Gimel Dalet. I swear that I will not eat, and he ate foods that are unfit to eat or drank beverages that are unfit to drink. He is exempt. I swear that I will not eat, and he ate nevelos, trephis, abominable creatures, or crawling things. He is liable. Reb Shimon exempts him. If he said, Kodam, that my wife derived pleasure from me, or if I have eaten today, and he has eaten nevelos, trephis, and abominable creatures, or crawling things, his wife is forbidden. The law applies both to matters pertaining to himself as well as to matters pertaining to others, and to both matters of substance and matters lacking substance. How so? If he said, I swear that I will give so and so, I will give to so and so, or that I will not give or that I gave, or that I did not give, that I will sleep, or that I will not sleep, that I slept, or that I did not sleep. I will cast a pebble into the sea, or that I will not cast, or I will have cast, or that I will not cast. Rabbi Yishmael says he is liable only for oaths concerning the future, as it states, to do bad or to do good. Rabbi Kiva said, if so, we know only of things pertaining to doing bad or good. Then how do we know of things pertaining to doing bad or good? He said to him, from the extension of the verse, he said to him, if the verse extended in it in that regard, the verse extended it in this regard as well. If one swore to annul a mitzvah and did not annul it, he is exempt. To fulfill the mitzvah, and so he did not fulfill it, he is exempt. For he might have inferred from that he is be liable as the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Sarah. Rabbi Yehuda ben Sarah said, if an optional matter concerning which he was not adored from Mount Sinai, he is liable. Then for a mitzvah concerning which he is adored from Mount Sinai, it is not certain that he should be liable. They said to him, not so. No. If you say this is regards to an optional oath, it be because Scripture has made it a negative equal to a positive in that regard. Will you say this in the case of an oath to fulfill a mitzvah, in which Scripture did not make a negative equal to positive? For if he swears to annul it and he does not annul it, he's exempt.
Okay.
Okay.
And Rosh Hashanah.
Okay, Gimel Aleph. If the Basin and all of Israel saw the moon or the witnesses were interrogated, or they did not manage to say, it is sanctified before it grew dark, it is full. If only Bezdin saw it, two of them should stand and testify before the others, and they should say, it is sanctified, it is sanctified. If three saw it, and they can constitute a Bezdin, and then two should stand up and say some of their colleagues beside the single one and testify before them and say, it is sanctified, for an interval is not trusted alone. All shofars are valid except for that of a cow because it is called a keren. Reb Yossi said, but not all shofars are called keren, as it is said when they make a long blast with the ram's keren. When they make a long blast with the ram's keren, the shofar of Rosh Hashanah should be from a wild goat, straightened with white and with gold covered mouthpiece, and with two trumpets at its side. The shofar blows long, and the trumpets blow short. For the commandment of the day is with the shofar.
That is it.
Good.
All right.
I will try again tomorrow.